I was just gonna say, the water, as always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let the record show that we do have a quorum. We do need to adopt the agenda. Any changes to the agenda as presented? Right here and none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second it.
Very well, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Here and none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, opposed nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda was old business. We have none. On the new business, we have, for today's program, we have legislative priorities presentation. So please join me in welcoming Senator Bryce Reeves of the Virginia Senate. And Delegate Karen Hamilton of the Virginia Senate. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for your service to our community and the Commonwealth. We will be joined later, I think, by Representative Mr. Reynolds Boadi from Eugene, Congressman Eugene Vindman's office, and he's not here at this point. So today we have a number of presenters for the legislative priorities. We would ask that they try to keep their presentation to 3 minutes. That way, after each presentation, we'll have time for some discussion with the representatives that are here. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Jewett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Weaver,
Anything
you
else,
want
Mr.
to
Weaver?
coordinate?
No, sir, the floor is yours. I'm
Okay.
just excited to have our legislators with us. We know you have busy schedules. The message we received from last session was start early. So we're trying to heed to that warning, so we're not dropping stuff on your heels. So we appreciate your time and all the hours that you put in to represent your constituents. So thank you again for being here.
Okay, Mr. Weaver, you want to start the sequence of presenters?
Yes, so, first up, on the agenda, and I know this was, patroned last year, the fiscal impact fees. So at this time, I believe Mr. Smith, who does a lot of stuff, for very little for the county, certified planner, very experienced CPA, very astute for, the government and the Constitution. But thank you, sir, for putting together the fiscal impact fee. And for those presenting, just give Kim your cue, tell her next slide, she'll go along.
I'm no doing slides, I hate PowerPoint, but it's, I'll try to keep this brief. First, thank you both very much for being here and for sponsoring the legislation last session. I'm here to just talk about pretty much proffers and impact fees, and they are, to this county, an existential threat if we don't get some relief. The General Assembly has been expanding housing, or has been moving toward expanding housing inventory, especially low-income housing. We in Madison have been doing our best to advance some economic development, and those two don't work very well together unless the Board of Supervisors is able to determine the cost of each, the benefits of each, and then determine who pays that the cost of the benefit. In the past, we were somewhat compensated by the cost of the development through proffers. Proffer is a payment that's made by a developer, offered of his own free will, and then negotiated with the authorities, generally through public hearings with the Planning Commission. That would then go on with our recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, who would make a decision. With the advent of Senate Bill 974 out of the 95 or the 25 session, we no longer have the ability to meet with developers Supervisors makes a decision that if the application satisfies the terms and conditions of the ordinance, it's accepted by fiat as a result of that legislation. So what that does now is if somebody would come through with a 230, for example, housing development on property that was zoned for it, if it met the terms and conditions, it was a fait accompli, you could go forward. If you do that, we really need to look at the fiscal impact in this county and what that gets us. There are different 8 sections of government for which we kind of pool our costs. Education certainly is one of the largest, and one of which we have very little control. Health and welfare, the Board of Supervisors also has very little control over that. That's pretty much mandated by the General Assembly. The other costs, we're seeing some that are rising there also outside our control, the cost of general government. And this is generally occurring through, at the very last hour or beyond the last hour, the General Assembly advancing some salary increases for a special segment of teachers, and then they apply across the board. So we've got these costs over which we have no control. They go into the cost of government. And what we find is when a development comes into play, the only people who really make out are the developer and the new residents who live there. We know that they don't pay the full cost. And so those costs get somehow socialized over the remainder of the citizens in the county. And that's just not the way things should be done. We certainly are going to be standing by to help you, both VACO and the American Planning Association Virginia chapter. Think that perhaps now, notwithstanding the ownership that's been staked out by the Virginia Builders Association in Richmond, they think that if they in fact do want to be able to build more houses and build them with less regulation, that the localities are going to have to somehow have a way to be compensated. We think impact fees is probably the way to go, and we certainly appreciate the support that you did and falling on the sword for us last year. Hopefully there'll be more people standing in that corner this year, and that some of the subcommittee chairs will even allow us to testify on subject matter. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. As Mr. Jewett comes to present on agritourism, I'll just reference Kim before you move along to Delegate Hamilton and Senator Reeves. There was some cost, there's a table in your chart at a later time, excuse me, there is a chart there that kind of shows the last several fiscal years, kind of gives you that idea of what Mr. Smith was referring to on fiscal impact per dwelling as we see development in the county. So just wanted to point that out. Kim, if you'll please go to agritourism. Supervisor Jewett, thank you, sir, for compiling this, and please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weebly. To the point, the issue with agritourism is that there have been some venue operators / developers that are trying to use the agritourism statute in the Virginia Code to circumvent local zoning policies, specifically on short-term rentals. I was at the VACO conference a few weeks ago. Supervisor Debbie Dennehy from Rappahannock County spoke on this, and I believe it's going to go into VACO's legislative proposals. She and I spoke for a while after the meeting, and this is something that is a real problem for her, and I think it's going to be a real problem for us. And I'm sure that there are other localities that are going to face this. But essentially, in Madison and many other localities, we do have a restriction in A1 zone properties to whereby you are limited to the number of short-term rentals. And what has happened is the contention has been from some of these operators is, well, agritourism in the code says localities just can't do anything to basically regulate it, except for instances of health, safety, or general public welfare. So, in working with our county attorney, Mr. Wright, who's not here today,
He's on his way. He did
Okay.
have some court.
we, can you go ahead and advance that? And there's some definitions in there. There's 2 sections in the code. One deals with short-term rental, which means essentially a living space that would be occupied for fewer than 30 consecutive days, and I'm sure you folks are familiar with that. And then, of course, agritourism. Ken, would you advance, please? That allows for, that basically says that localities are limited in what they can do to restrict agritourism activities. Now, we've run into some situations, and I've heard of some other situations where somebody has a rental or a venue property, and across the road, somebody has a cow wandering around. So they're claiming that as agritourism, and they want to put up more short-term rentals. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but we all know that, and you folks, better than anyone else, people are always trying to game the system. Mr. Wright and I worked on some language, and while this is very specific and may not be practical or workable, we made a change to section 15.2228-6, where the activity cannot, where not only can we restrict it due to health, safety, and general welfare of the public, or if it's a violation of a locality's ordinances regarding short-term dwelling, sleeping, or lodging units. That is very specific. Again, I'm not sure that's where that's appropriate. There may be some language that maybe would be more general with regard to using agritourism as justification for circumventing other zoning policies, but we would really like to see the General Assembly take this up and make a definition so that we're not dealing with these cases whereby we have the venue operators contending, well, I'm in agritourism, there's a cow across the road, so I can go and put more short-term rentals and I don't have to have the locality's permission. So that's where we're at with that. But thank you all very much, and again, for the work you've done, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Supervisor Jewett. As community medicine paramedic, many hats, Tiffany Ronenberger comes to the table. And thank you, Chief Helms and Deputy Chief Morton for being here as well. Please, I know this is your passion and you are the perfect fit for the job, so please.
Good afternoon. So we've had the opportunity to start a pilot program. It's been going about 2 years now. The results you're going to see in this study were from 24 months that we were in service. Next slide, please. So community paramedicine is a healthcare model where we're using the same paramedics that you would have on an ambulance, but we're specially training them to take a preventative approach instead of getting to a point of high acuity. So if we can help patients manage their medications at home or put in grab bars for fall prevention so that it doesn't get to the point of a catastrophic fall or taking too much medication, that's kind of where this process has started. It initially started in Europe, then it moved to North America. It's really big out west where there's a lot of hospital deserts. It's about 2 to 3 hours in some areas before you get to a hospital. So this is really an innovative approach to use the resources we already have in a different avenue to serve our community better. Madison County was a perfect example for this. We have over 14,000 people. 25% of the residents are 65 or older. For the median age, it's 46, which is older than Virginia State's median average. And 45% of our population in the county is also age 50 or older. Being rural, this also gives us different barriers that we consistently combat, such as transportation and healthcare access. We do have one physician's office, but a lot of our patients are traveling outside the county to get the healthcare access that they need. Our aging population doesn't simply mean that the community has older residents. It changes the types and the volumes of calls. One of the biggest avenues that we used our program for is to allow people to safely age in place. That way we're not taking them out of their home, and we're doing our best to keep them out of the hospital with simple things. As stated, like grab bars, we do fall alert devices. We'll go over their medication with them and answer any questions they have, especially a lot of our population that is geographically isolated and doesn't have family in the area. So some of the things that community paramedics can do, we do home safety assessments. We'll identify and reduce any fall risks. Any patients that have chronic disease that need some education, we can help with that. We have a little bit bigger of a benefit than a physician who's seeing 30 patients in one day and can only spend 10 minutes per patient. So we're really meeting the patient where they are and using some basic root cause analysis to figure out how we can improve their health outcomes. One of the misconceptions with community paramedicine is that it replaces 911. That is not the case. Our goal is to prevent it from getting to that point where you're in an acute emergency and you need 911. I wanted to put a figure in here that shows the amount of 911 calls we have where we'll go out and either do a lift assist on a patient or do a patient evaluation, but we do not transport those patients. A lot of people, when we went to EMS Day on the Hill, were surprised to learn that if we do not transport a patient, then we cannot bill. So that was one of the other reasons for this process, is to do a treatment in place. Some patients just need some education or some medical care, but not the level of emergency departments where it would qualify them to take up a room and spend several hours there. So we manage what we can at home, and living in a smaller community, it really is beneficial. The local results for the program that we've had running, there is a poster up there if you have any questions. I encourage you to go look at it. It's got some great factors. Before enrollment, we followed 7 patients for this specific cohort. Before they were enrolled in our community paramedicine program, there were 38 total 911 calls. During enrollment, we saw a little bit of a drop, but because it was very touch heavy and trying to figure out the best situation and answers for each patient, we had 34 911 calls. After the intervention period, when patients graduated, we had dropped our 911 call volume to 2. So that's a 94.7% drop in just those 7 patients. And this is just a chart that illustrates the dates those patients were involved, the prior, during, and post 911 calls, and the readiness hours we were able to put ambulances back on the street. One of our patients required 2 ambulances to respond to his house. He received dialysis 3 days a week. When his health deteriorated, he ended up sustaining an amputation, so he was unable to get to dialysis, being wheelchair bound. We were able to coordinate resources with our local hardware store, get wood donated, and had some volunteers to go out and build a ramp. This enabled this man to be able to go to dialysis. And instead of getting 2 ambulances to lift him onto the stretcher to go to dialysis and then back into his house, our calls went from an average of 6 to 7 a week to 1 in a month. This is just another graph that's illustrating the decrease in 911 calls that we've had. And as I stated before, it's not that we don't want these people to call 911, it's that if we have resources that we can tailor to their situation to prevent them from having to go sit in an ER for hours, that's really where our focus is. One of the things that was a benefit of this was we avoided approximately 24 transports. We were able to also put an ambulance back on the street for 86 and a half more hours. That allows that ambulance to be able to respond to other serious emergencies that we have, those patients having stroke, having heart attacks, motor vehicle crashes, the ones that are really time sensitive. For the financial and operational impact, just this 7-patient cohort, we estimated a cost savings of about $31,491. A little under $15,000 of that was associated with the avoided transports. We calculated that at $600 per transport. That's the minimum that CMS would reimburse us for transports. $14,400 was associated with the avoided calls at $400 response. So that would be the cost of our ambulances responding, the crews putting them on the street, wear and tear on the vehicle, and such like that. And then the almost $2,600 was the hour wage that we would recoup from those patients. I'm sorry, not really recoup, but be able to move to having our staff back on the street available for calls. During our 14 months, we received a total of 90 referrals. We were able to solve 44 cases. At this time, during the January of 2026, we had 15 ongoing patients. We also had a waiting list. We were able to do the handicap ramp for that patient to safely be transported. We installed over 20 fall alert devices that were purchased with local grants. And we also installed over 30 smoke alarms for county residents that didn't have them. The biggest help for Madison County has been our focus on fall prevention. Unintentional injuries are one of the major killers and the leading cause of injury death in patients over 65. Based on our 2024 population data, as 45% of our patients are 50 or older, this was one of our biggest causes that we really wanted to focus on. This is just a graph showing the escalation in fall-related 911 calls from 21 to 25. As you can see, there's been a significant increase, 40.9% from 24 just into 25, and I can tell you for 26, it's gonna be even higher. Madison County was able to demonstrate what community paramedicine can accomplish when rural EMS agencies are given the ability to address these healthcare gaps proactively. A lot of Virginia communities are facing the same battle that we have. Each community paramedicine program can be tailored to whatever that need is, but our biggest focus is just trying to improve the health outcomes of our individuals. So one of the things that could help our support is on the federal level, House Bill 2538, Senate Bill 3145 that's been proposed, the Comprehensive Alternative Response for Emergencies, also known as the CARE Act. This creates a pilot program so that those patients that we go out to and we treat in place, we would actually get reimbursement through CMS to be able to still go out and essentially help those patients, but get compensated for it as well. The community paramedicine model approach also has House Bill 4011, called the Community Paramedicine Act, and this bill is through the Secretary of Health and Human Services to support this community paramedicine program approach. On the state level, we do have the Rural Health Transformation Program funding that's been awarded. It's, I think, just under $190 billion. 84.7 million of that was specifically earmarked in our state for community paramedicine approach under the Connected Care Closer to Home initiative. I can tell you they're still struggling with trying to get that disbursement process hashed out. And I checked it this morning, it still has Connected Care Closer to Home approach as to be determined. So community paramedicine allows us to essentially take what we have and tailor it to help our citizens in a better avenue. It improves our healthcare access in rural regions, it increases our ability to have patients age in place, and it increases our EMS readiness while also saving some healthcare costs. This is just our a sample of our budget that we had this past year, in case you wanted to know the fiscal responsibilities we also face.
Thank you, Tiffany, very much. As you can see, that's the right person for the job. We are excited not only for Madison County, we do look out beyond our borders. We recognize you represent other communities as well. Orange County has a community paramedicine program. I know you do not represent Rappahannock, but they are also looking at it as well this year. So rural communities, this is where it's at. I know there was some reference to the congressional side. I think that died in committee last year. The operative word is transport there for CMS to recognize that. We're not really just pushing it because it's a billable service. There will be some cost savings to the county, obviously, but it's about that no units available. Each board member has an active alert, so when a call goes out, when our fine chiefs or whoever's on duty at the time, when we literally have no units available, we track that. We know that's not uncommon, because if you never have no units available, you're probably overstaffed. But it's very important with our geographic location. You drive out to Somerset, you're Route 20 and 231, or Nethers on 231 near in Rappahannock County, a lot of windshield time to get back and forth. So helping folks, whether it's, with blood pressure checks at home or The fall patients, as Tiffany just mentioned, it's a big deal. I think this is the model. I may be a little greedy in the future. I'm gonna say this now. This is me, not the board. Hopefully hospitals who may be for-profit will see that this is advantageous for them for patient diversion. I know UVA, quite often we get alerts of daily diversion. Now that could be for some domestic stuff, but a lot of times it's just because they're full. In Greene County and Albemarle County, they are growing. We are trying to be moderate growth, maybe slow growth, but still hospitals become overwhelmed. So we believe it's a win-win for all around. So thank you for listening to that. Tiffany, great job, thank you. She set the bar too high for me. I'm next on collective bargaining agreement. So collective bargaining, you're all very familiar with that. There is Virginia Code section that right now that allows that to happen if the locality wants to adopt by ordinance and so forth. Madison County has not looked to adopt that by ordinance. We believe in, occasionally doing pay and classification studies. You look at their economic downturns, what are factors that may cause you to have to increase wages? Obviously, inflation is part of that, but that's not the only factor. However, thankfully, the bill was vetoed. I do not know how legislation is passed during appropriation. That's another civics lesson. I'm happy to have that offline. But I'm happy with that the state bills initially went away, but it was tried to be passed through the budget, and thankfully the governor vetoed, even though I'm sure it was their own party. We believe that'll come back. I'm sure you believe it'll come back. Our concern with that is, it is not a one-size-fits-all. Yes, we are a dealing rule state. We believe we know better our needs on the local level, especially with public safety. We're actively competing with every county. County's much larger than us. Moving us into a mandatory setting, we're in college sports season here. You can appreciate this. That's going to put us in a disadvantage when it comes to competition. We're not about paying for name, image, and likeness. Gavin looks great, but we're not paying him for his looks. So it's not free agency. We've got to really be able to look at the local markets. I don't want to call it the wave the white flag approach, but I don't know how many votes this is going to have this year. So if this is going to go through, or if there's a chance for friendly amendments, why not respect the localities? And my thought is do this by planning districts because, we're in the Rappahannock Regional Commission. That's who we generally work with. That's our competition, if you will, and our friends. But maybe if they're gonna do something, require local governments to occasionally, or whatever term you wanna put in, every 5 years, to do pay and classification studies, which is appropriate anyway, and let them determine what those salaries or those benefits should be. Please do not make that mandatory. I believe I know where both of you stand on that issue, but whatever you can collectively do to help on that, we believe that right to make decisions on employment should stay local. All right, next up, we have our wonderful Commonwealth Attorney, Ms. Clarissa Berry.
I'm afraid I don't have a fancy PowerPoint like some people. Making us all look bad. That's okay. Thank you guys, both three now. So welcome. Glad that you can join us as well. I am going to jump around a little bit so that I can hit the high points first. So there are two pieces of proposed state legislation, number 1 and number 4. Number 1 is about duplicative protective orders. If a protective order is issued at the beginning of a case with some crimes, once someone is convicted, there's a mandatory issuance of additional protective orders. As a result, there could be a defendant and a victim who end up with 3, 4, 5, 7 protective orders between each other, which also means the clerk has to print out all of those, the judge has to sign them all, and the sheriff's office has to serve them all, and they've all got to be entered into VSEN as well, which is just a lot of duplicative work. Because certainly I'm not gonna charge 7 protective order violations just because there's 7 orders. It's maybe a way to sell it to the others. Yes?
When would there be I understand about the temporary protective order, and then
let's say they get convicted of malicious wounding and the judge issues a permanent protective order 2 years. Why would you have 7 more? I don't understand.
So if it is one of the violation of protective order cases, for example, those all come with a new protective order. There are some judges who take the position that that means that there has to be a new protective order on each charge rather than one for the entire group of defendants. I also had a situation, I was doing a special prosecution in Orange County, and there was a protective order that came off the original protective order, the original EPO that was issued at the beginning of the court case, which was never appealed, and so that stayed in juvenile court. Then there was a new protective order on a violation out of circuit court. And they had different terms, different dates, and so while this wouldn't solve that exact problem, it would give a lot more clarity to everybody involved in the process as to what's the protective order that's active right now, what are the terms of that protective order, and how do we violate it if there's a need to violate it.
So, rather than carry a bill, wouldn't we be better off going to the Chief Justice and having them take a look at it first? And, I mean, you're an attorney, but, you know, typically this stuff comes out of the, Boadi Graves and some of those things, right?
Yes, but sometimes they're focused on some of the other, big ticket shiny issues. This is a little bit more of the nitty gritty that they don't seem to be as focused on. I can certainly try to see if I
I'm not
can't
trying
get
to
it
find a football,
before.
I'm just trying to understand where in the code, why there's such a complex. I mean, I understand when it comes to, foster care, that chart is just stupid. But in this sense, I'm really kind of getting lost with the amount of protective orders that each judge feels like they have the autonomy to just start checking those things out.
Well, it's not that they feel they have the autonomy, they feel like that the code section where it says, once you're convicted of the crime, a new protective order must issue. And if
So you
they're,
want to change must to may?
that's certainly an easy way to fix it.
Right. I don't mean to be so blunt, I'm just trying.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Leave the discretion to the judges and then let them figure it out. Okay.
That's certainly one way, yeah.
Okay.
The number 4 is about criminal complaints from the magistrate. I can talk at length about concerns I have with the magistrate process. We're not gonna go there today. But for example, if a citizen goes to the jail in Orange to swear out a warrant, that criminal complaint has to find its way to our court, which can take a period of time. And if they're using the mail, I may not ever get it. I've got a case now where I'm still waiting about 3 weeks later for a criminal complaint, which means that there's a warrant someone has been served on, and I have no paperwork outlining the basis of that warrant, which is a concern.
Warrant? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Misdemeanor not committed.
Correct.
offense, Okay.
Exactly, and obtained by a citizen.
Right.
And so I've asked the magistrates to send those over when they send over a copy of the warrant. And the response was, the statute says to send a copy of the warrant, we will send a copy of the warrant.
So we don't put a time frame in there, like fax it over as soon as you're done doing it?
No, they do, as a practical matter, they will fax the warrant over as soon as it happens. But it's those extra sheets, that have the information about the event, and then a subpoena request form, which has contact information for the victims.
Okay.
Because sometimes law enforcement hasn't had any interaction, I won't have a name, phone number, an address, or anything, and if somebody's being held without bond, I statutorily am obligated to give them notice, and if I don't have any way to contact them, that's a hard hill for me to climb up.
James, you got that? You got it.
And then number 3, I'm gonna add you to my list. Pretty please do not take away our VOCA funding. I know that is a long-standing ask of the federal government. That money filters down through the state state and to us specifically in the form of our victim witness program. Something that is not a direct core request today, but in the future to consider figuring out a way to have more steady funding at the state level for that. It is on a 2-year grant cycle, and so every 2 years, is there gonna be money? And so, we are hoping that at some point we can come up with a mechanism that would allow for that to be a more, permanent fixture in our local government. We have an excellent program here. I think every other jurisdiction would also speak highly of the importance of that office to them. The last 3 are kind of more of a broad picture, big picture, issues. Number 2 is about mental health and criminal justice. The state hospitals are overwhelmed, as I'm sure you're both aware of, and one of the ways to reduce their patient load is to say that folks who are charged with misdemeanors can no longer be sent there inpatient for restoration of competency. That is a huge problem, because those defendants are the very people who need the help the most, so that we can hopefully get them on a better path before they progress to either felon level behavior, or in the case of some of them who are trespassing on other people's property, you know, there's a very real chance that the person, the homeowner, could be frightened reasonably and shoot them. And that is also certainly something that we do not wish to have happen as well. I know that their mental health is a bigger oyster than we have time to crack into today, but I'm happy to talk with any of you about that at a later date. And then
This has nothing to do with TDOs, right?
oh, that's a whole other ballgame. I'm not gonna talk to you about that.
Okay, all right. I'm just
But it does,
trying to
so
understand.
the problem is that at the state hospital, for example, at Western State in Stanton, they would prefer for their numbers to be about 80% folks who come in on the civil side, like through a TDO, and about 20% or a quarter folks who come in on the criminal side. And instead, it's closer to 50-50, and it may be completely reversing in other hospitals.
And who was gonna carry that bill that you've heard of? Do you know?
I can find out for you,
Okay,
and I'll send you a message.
okay, I appreciate it.
But it's been a hot topic of conversation with criminal attorneys.
I'm not on courts anymore, so I don't get a lot of that. Okay, all right, thanks.
And then I'll go to number 6, which kind of fits in a little bit with what Jonathan was talking about with the localities and different solutions for different places. I think it's important to highlight that if you take the number of prosecutors in Virginia and you divide us up into thirds, so you've got 1/3 of prosecutors, they are in 14 offices. The next third of prosecutors is in 30 offices, and the last third is in 76 offices. We only have 120 offices in the entire Commonwealth. And so what often ends up happening is that we are legislating for the 14 offices at the expense of the 76 offices. And that's where a lot of these unfunded mandates and things, that's where they come from. And, you know, my office is certainly the recipient of them, and we are grateful that we're funded, but it's also, I think, important to point out that it is a bit unfair. And I know that
I'm
that's,
just gonna tell you, that
I
has to
know.
do with the amount of votes they have in Northern Virginia and the beach versus the rural area, and we fight it all the time. It doesn't matter what party, it's the rural versus the city. And it's
100%, I agree with everything that you're saying. I found this little tidbit to be particularly illuminating, and perhaps it might help you when you're trying to explain it to someone else. That's the only reason I wanted to highlight it.
It's just unfortunately, the larger jurisdictions suck up all the money, and that's how it goes for everyone.
Well, yeah, because they're done by
They feel like they
population.
give the most and they want the most.
Right. And then, you know, prosecutorial discretion, we just ask that you think about preserving our local decision-making ability. We're the folks we are locally elected, we're accountable every 4 years. And if folks don't like what I'm doing, I certainly hope that they would first tell me, but they are certainly welcome to have a contested election too. And yes, sir.
And just to put a button on the number 3 point World Cup, that's the one that's sunset in 2029.
I believe that's the current date, but I'll be honest, it seems to come up a lot more often than it should.
And what are some intermediary ways that you're looking to fill those gaps with right now?
I'm begging the county for money, if I'm being honest, and the county is already supplementing that as well, because the money that flows through, I think the state provides 25% of that funding, 20,
I think it's only,
yeah, and then,
I'm not on that subcommittee in the Senate Finance, but I remember looking at the number somewhere.
yeah, and so the locality then helps pick it up, because when we did the salary study, when the county did it, our position was woefully underpaid, and so they were able to give us some extra money and have us with an excellent person.
We can make one more, but we can't add it in the budget. So obviously what's in the leftover money.
So yeah, it's a hope for the future, not a direct ask today.
Projections are, we haven't had a Senate Finance meeting, in a month, so I just don't know what we're gonna have.
I'm just asking to put a bug in your ear,
Got it.
and I appreciate you listening. I've gotta run, my aunt is getting an award, in Fauquier County, so I gotta run up there, but please, don't hesitate to reach out. I don't know that I have your contact information, but I will get it from, Jonathan, he'll put us in contact. I'm happy to talk whenever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Before I call the next speaker, I guess I should have went over some house rules. Please, if you feel parched, there's a white cooler over there. There's no alcohol, that's frowned upon. There is water that is iced down. Help yourself. And we made it local by having some Yoder's cookies over there, so there is no judging here. If you need to use the bathroom, please quietly, but tiptoe, go out that door, down the hall, make a left, women, men, whichever one. Use that, but I did want to make those housekeeping announcements important. If you can't find the exit, I can't help you, so. All right, next up, let's bring along the Commissioner of the Revenue, Mr. Brian Daniel.
Well, welcome, and thank y'all for coming to the best county in your district. Mine's gonna be short and sweet. There's a white paper, lots of words in there, and you're welcome to review it. We're happy for you too. First off, it sounds like we're picking on Airbnb. We're not. We love Airbnb. They fill a need here in the county. Bring in revenue, so we do love Airbnb. It appears they're gonna present state legislation this year that may propose centralized at the state level administration of TOT tax. We're advocating for no. Hey, we're already doing it. We're doing it well. We know the places they're identifying. We're familiar with them. We know jurisdictional boundaries, etc. The other point is added cost. Of course, you gotta stand up something at the state level. It's gonna cost more to the taxpayers. We don't need that. Last point, basically they're trying to change the rules to fit and make their business model the most efficient. They're trying to save costs, and they'd rather just report to one central location, rather than having to deal with all the localities. And yeah, when they started their business, they knew the rules. Don't change the rules just because it's gonna make your business model more profitable. I don't think that's a tough sell, but yeah, let's keep TOT administration local.
I'd like to state, as I bring, hey, we ride or die together. Thank you, sir. As I call up Chief Animal Control Officer, Mr. Cade, please come to the front. I will say, I do want to recognize and thank the state. There is a provision that allows, for years, we were doing a 3 to 5%. I always get mixed up. I'm looking for Tracy. She helps me out. but a 3-2 split, percentage goes to the locality, percentage goes in for top. There is provision to allow us to increase that. We did that for the first time, probably since that ordinance increased, not because we were just overjoyed to do so, but we needed some additional revenue in tourism because of COVID exposed people to our beautiful county. Yes, Brian, I do agree, we have the best county. We have seen some uptick, however, we are cautious about this year. There seems to be a decrease. So we gotta be mindful as we balance tax revenue streams. But, thank you, Brian, for that, and, we'll move on to our next category. Mr. Cave, I think you wanna talk about enhanced benefits for animal control.
Yes, sir, thank you. So I'm here to discuss hazardous duty retirement, and I will be brief. Next slide. So part of my presentation is from the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission report that was presented to the Governor and the General Assembly in 2023. It is pretty much still accurate today. I did go through and highlight a couple pages, page 8, page 10 has some important information. So what am I asking? I'm asking to amend the Virginia Hazardous Duty Code section to include full-time animal control officers and to recognize the animal control officers are public safety. So next slide.
Is that under sheriff's office control, or, because there's some jurisdictions that are not?
Correct. So Madison County, we're under the county.
Okay.
So what does animal control do? So listed is our, basically our daily, what we deal with on a daily basis, including these two pictures on the right. Not many people would try to attempt to catch this dog, or even the second picture, the rabbit cat. We did experience this back in 2022, where we had a colony of cats that was on someone's property and one attacked the homeowner. So we actually had to go in and tested the cat, came back positive for rabies. Next slide. So part of this report, animal control has a higher rate of workers' comp claims among any other public safety, approximately 17% having a paid claim each year. Many injuries occur when restraining large and aggressive animals, especially animals weighing over 100 pounds and livestock. Next is health hazards, rabies, and zoonotic diseases. So rabies is one of the examples of why this job is different. Officers may not know whether an animal is infected or not when they arrive on location, what the animal has, when they go to pick it up, transport it, and have to quarantine it if it's bitten someone. This includes raccoons, bats, skunks, foxes, which is some of the highest carriers of rabies. I did go through and you can find these also a breakdown of hazardous duty in your hazardous duty justification packet. So not every call is life-threatening. It's the risk that we're exposed to, but not only animals, but the different environments and the people that are involved. So Virginia law already recognizes animal control as enforcement officers. So we can enforce animal control chapters, state, local ordinances, issue summonses, obtain warrants. There are some localities that already consider animal control as public safety. So part of this report, there's 490 animal control officers around the state, including some that share law enforcement responsibility. There are approximately 200 animal control officers that do not receive any type of enhanced benefits. Next is the comparable public safety roles. So according to the report on page 8, they list the jobs as either high, moderate, low, or minimum. Everyone listed on the top half of the scale is currently receives enhanced benefits. For example, state police, sheriff's office, state police investigator, campus police are high risk, which we all agree. Midway of the report, we have correctional officers, probation officers, alcoholic beverage investigators at a low risk, which is a lower than what animal control is currently rated at. However, they receive enhanced benefits. Animal control is rated at a moderate level, a step above comparison to corrections, probation, and alcoholic beverage investigator, but we do not receive enhanced benefits. So under the code section 51.1-138, you have law enforcement, full-time firefighters, full-time EMTs, and regional jail positions that are currently listed. Under that code section, animal control is not listed. So by offering this, I feel that enhanced benefits will help recruit experienced officers, retain experienced officers in today's market. It will definitely help reduce turnover, and it shows that we value the same as public safety role in the state of Virginia. So I've been employed with Madison County for almost 19 years now, and I see this bill proposed every year, and every year it's denied. It was brought up again earlier this year, and I was asked to speak in Richmond by Delegate Ballard's office. The bill was House Bill 585, Senate Bill 154. However, it was carried over to next year, so the bill died. So I'm not saying that animal control is identical to other public safety. I'm just asking that animal control is recognized for the job that actually is required. And if Virginia was able to create a local option, enhance hazardous duty retirement, and include animal control in that code section. Thank you.
Quick question, you're not, animal control, depending if it's in the sheriff's office or outside, for the county, you're not part of Leo's, right? You guys
No.
don't draw Leo's either, right?
Correct. So almost 19 years ago, I was hired by the sheriff, and then I was transferred over to the county, which I'm still currently.
And Leo's didn't transfer, right? So that wasn't in the jail article report.
So I don't believe, I was not currently under Leo's, even when I was under the sheriff's office here.
Okay.
So some agencies do recognize animal control as being considered Leo's,
You know which jurisdictions?
which,
Well, 7 of the people that are on that are no longer part of the General Assembly that were part of this report. So
Right.
you got 6 people left that might even remember it. I remember reading it, but I couldn't remember if it was in there or not. So if you get a chance to go back and look through it and see, and then I think it went to local government, because I had just gotten put on local government right after, when the bill went through, but I think part of it was the funding side of it.
correct, yeah. And my opinion, I'll give you an example. So I was actually contacted by a neighboring county regarding an aggressive dog. And so I showed up to assist this dual certified animal control officer who is part animal control, part law enforcement. My opinion is when you are dual certified, you kind of lose sight of the animal control side and you focus more on the law enforcement side. So I arrived on location to be told, oh, the dog's down there at the barn. So I walked down, he's like, be careful, the dog is very aggressive, severely aggressive. I went up to the barn stall, put a leash around the dog's neck, and walked him to his vehicle. So I think that is an issue when you are considered dual certified, compared to just animal control.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Senator Reeves, just to make sure I capture, was there follow-up information we need to bring back? Were you looking for jurisdictions that recognize or?
Well, I've got staff here, we'll pull it up, you don't have to do homework, I just didn't know if you remembered it from pulling the jail arc report, so we'll pull it up in my office and figure it out.
Okay,
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. next up, Ms. Lita Lau, she is our clerk of the circuit court. Who loves public speaking, right?
Yes.
We're thankful to have Ms. Lau as our clerk.
Everyone on the board knows how much I hate public speaking, so I'll ask you to, bear with me.
I only have like 40 questions.
If I'm talking about my job, I'm okay, but, I contacted the Virginia Court Clerks Association, and we haven't met yet. So, they're still talking about, what they're gonna be looking into. The three things that are on the screen are pretty much three things that we've probably asked you for the last 5 years. I went back about 5 years worth of emails, and these have been talking points on every one of them, to just have the Appropriations Act, the clerk's apportion 2/3 and 1/3 go, back to that 2/3, 1/3. As you've heard, the small counties really do need that money. When you take even the least little bit away from us, it hurts. And, I think one of the things that people don't realize, just taking the clerk's office, I have 4 staff, full-time staff. Fairfax has close to 300. And so my chief deputy is still doing a chief deputy's job, but she's not called a chief deputy. And so just taking that little bit of money away from each county does make a big difference. They're wanting to look at the clerks wanting to look at, and again, that population-based compensation, say between the sheriff's office and the Commonwealth attorney, is for our employees. If we can get the clerks' population up to, say, what the sheriff's is when they're considered for salary ranges, then I can hire a deputy clerk, and she can make more than what a general district court deputy clerk makes. When you've got, the clerk has 800 duties, and probably with the ceiling legislation last year, I probably have pushed to 900 duties now. And yet my deputy clerk makes less than what a general district court deputy clerk does. So the clerks just feel that bringing that more into line will help us get salaries for our employees and get the compensation board to look more at, especially the small counties. I mean, when you're talking, the sheriff starts at 0 to 79,000, but the clerks are 0 to 19,000, and then I've got, before they even bump up in. The career development, that is one way that the deputy clerks are going to get raises. But if there's no funding for that, there's not much point in taking these classes. And these classes are amazing, and they do teach the clerks and the deputies a lot, but when there's no funding for it, there's not much, any reason for them to want to take it.
Do you know what the overall budget amount is for the state for that? I'm just asking about you.
I think they're asking for it to at least be brought up to 70,000. But again, we haven't met yet, so I'm not sure. Steve Landis is the chair, and I've talked to him a couple times, and he's like, he was so excited that Madison County was doing this and meeting with you all, but they hadn't met yet.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
I wanted to make you, two maybe additional things. You and I talked about EFI, I want to keep that for a second, but was it federal or state, wasn't there some sealing of records that's created a lot of burden on your office?
So
Do you want to speak about that? And if not,
That's the
we can
state,
move on.
yeah, that's the state level. I think it's probably a done deal, but it's,
That came out of courts of justice, so I can just tell you,
yeah, it's,
we're not gonna be able to unwrap that.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot of work though. It is a lot of work, and so just even when I say the localities could use their 1/3 back, yeah, because it's a lot of work.
Well, I'm happy to tell you, I will put in the budget amendment, but I'm of the wrong party. I'm just being honest.
Well,
I'm
we
a senior,
appreciate,
I'm a ranking member, but I'm lucky to get what I get out of the budget.
I spent, Sunday before July 4th, and it was actually a day before I headed up to, to my father's funeral, moving every single criminal file out of the public to keep them, so that those files are locked up, because trying to pull every single marijuana charge out was not gonna be feasible.
Right.
So we moved every single criminal file, my husband and I, on a Sunday, moved every single file into the back so that they're not open now for public inspection. And when the sealing legislation was passed, nobody thought about that.
Shock.
The last thing I'd like to mention, I appreciate it, is probably one we're not gonna unwind as well, Senator and Delegate. But I have concern, we all see the whole, good TV marketing about home title theft. But we believe that could be a real situation. They're required to file whatever comes over their way. And I know even our local attorneys have, got adjusted to e-filing. I'm not sure if there's anything that can be done. We all know the back and forth on IDs when it comes to voting, but it's a very concern of someone that can misrepresent, they can change a deed or anything like that, and then citizens are paying the price. I do know Virginia Alert, I think, was an initiative to maybe help on that. I don't know if you feel like that has done enough, but e-filing, when it comes to deeds and things of that nature, we just wanna make sure our citizens, as well as others in the Commonwealth, are protected, so their livelihood is not taken from them. Anything on that, Ms. Love?
I think the Virginia Alert was a good start for it. I don't think we'll ever again go backwards on something. E-filing is here, we recorded 186 instruments in July, and 144 of them were e-filing. So the attorneys love it, the title examiners love it, I hate it. I feel like my staff, when they have a piece of paper in front of them, they're carefully going through every document, they're making sure it's correctly notarized, and when it's on a screen, it's easy to miss something. And so we're constantly having to look for mistakes. I'm not crazy about it, and one thing I would totally always be against is if we start doing e-filing on wills. If you wanna talk about fraud, let's start e-filing wills, and having people sign the wills by electronic way. I think you'll really find a lot of fraud. We're gonna have fraud. One of the neighbor clerks indicated that, her deputy was recording a deed and just was looking at the name and said, "That's my neighbor. I didn't know they were moving." She calls her up and she's like, "No, we're not moving." Her deed was fraudulently recorded. So it is gonna be a problem, it's gonna continue to be a problem. I don't know the answer to it though, because I don't think you're gonna get rid of e-filing. But I think that ever since we started e-filing, that's when more and more fraud has come up. I just hope they don't let them do wills. Like, as an
I
attorney, you
appreciate
probably think
you-
that might be easier.
I appreciate you highlighting that, so I don't know the answer to it, even if that's being discussed in past sessions, but it is a problem.
I'm on general laws and technology, and with the onslaught of AI, there's a lot of issues we've been taking up, but that is actually one of the ways AI can be very beneficial to check documents quicker than a person, because they just go through it once you input the information. So there's some private, public partnerships that are happening to help with legal documents of this type. In fact, all my colleagues that are attorneys, that's all they use is AI to write their affidavits and everything else, because it checks every spelling error and everything else.
I know a lot of people have said, why do I have to spend money with an attorney to get my will done? You've provided for your family your entire life. You've done everything you can for your family, you're gonna do one more thing and do a will, but do it with an attorney who can give you legal advice. That's what I tell anybody who asks me, is get an attorney to do it. Do not depend on a computer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, lady. Thanks for letting me add on there.
Next up, we have our senior building official, Mr. Jamie Wilkes, will be bringing up some building and zoning concerns or ideas. We do ask folks to bring solutions to their problems, so.
I have a solution.
All right.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come here. I'm, like Mr. Weekly said, I'm the building official for the county, and I'm also the director of building and zoning. And Mr. Smith touched on zoning issues, but I'm here specifically related to building code issues. Virginia has a long history of having a very robust building code. And it's a very open and transparent process to amend the code, because codes have to change. Things happen, new technologies, everything changes. The main problem I'm having, or I would say statewide, is legislating outside the code. You know, the Code of Virginia is 36-98 for the building codes, that falls under housing. Recently, the General Assembly adopted a section in 45.2, that's mines, minerals, and energy for solar permitting. They're basically directing the Department of Energy to issue permits, review plans for solar permitting for residential structures. And that's in direct conflict with the building code. If that happens, I don't know who would inspect it. We have to issue a permit to inspect things. So my main focus is ask you all to work with the rest of the General Assembly that when there is something they want to change in the code, to work within the code process. So the state building code remains one document, not scattered throughout the General Assembly, the Code of Virginia. And that's pretty much all I have.
I don't know, maybe before we let you go, I don't, and that's why we say you, but I don't know enough about the process. Is this the normal process that you can speak to where, you know, I know there's a statewide building code, there's a group of folks, they talk about it, but is it normal for changes to happen in between an interaction between General Assembly and that group, or does this occasionally happen?
Sometimes there's an emergency thing that has to be done.
I mean, I can think of like floodplain issues, things of that emergency.
But no, what I'm talking about is emergency
This
changes.
is just a solar industry that has a big lobby,
Yep.
and they don't wanna fall under the building code, so they found a place to put it so they could get by. When they first started coming out, I tried to pass a bill to hold them accountable for 35 years from now. When you solar panels, what do you do with them, right? They didn't want any regulations. So it was very, very difficult to even get that done. So they got a powerful lobby, and that's where the bill came from. Quite simply, they just shoved it somewhere, and they don't want to be regulated.
It is strange. The Title 36 specifically says, you know, this shall supersede all other sections of the code, including state agencies. So the Department of Energy is not an inspection or planning agency. Somehow they can work it into the code and not leave it outside there. I don't know who's gonna touch it.
So I just met with a constituent on this exact bill, and he shares your same concerns. He teaches the Virginia Building Code. And my question to you is, what costs associated with this would you expect the county to be on the hook for?
Well, in the language, it says, I don't remember the exact words, but basically, we have to go to some online permitting system. Or work with the Department of Energy to have their system come and do our IT system, that's a disaster waiting to happen, that's not gonna work. So if they mandate that we adopt some new permitting system, or for, specifically just for solar, residential solar, that's a cost the county's gonna have to come up with.
I plan on carrying some sort of either amendment or a repeal for this bill, so I'd be interested to meet with you further on this one.
Sure, it'd be great. If they want this, bring it into the building code where it lies in one location.
What I'll do, Delegate Hamilton, State Senator Reeves, as well as representation from Congressman Vindman's office, I'll take the department heads or constitutional officers that presented today, I will share those emails with your offices. So if you want to connect correctly, you don't have to do it through my office. If you want, that's fine, but you certainly can reach out directly. I will say I appreciate Senator Reeves, your comment on what do you do 35 years from now. We've had some solar projects come before us
we don't just focus on, you know, the dangling, we'll give you some capital funds. We look at what your decommissioning plan look like, and that's generally where it stumbles, right? You know, it's like, well, that's part of our requirement, you know, we wanna know what that looks like, if we're gonna look at a project, you know, in totality. So, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Wilkes.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, you're not gonna see her once, you're gonna see her twice, but we have, Ms. Lauren Gordon, from our Department of Social Services. She also is a school board member, so, later on you'll hear from her again, so. Ms. Gordon, thank you for your time. Looks like Jamie killed the microphone.
Of course. IT stumble again?
While he's changing the battery, how's your energy level? Can we get you any Yoder snacks? Are you good on that?
I do have questions when we get done for,
The building official?
no, for, the EMTs.
We can do that now, sir, if you like, or after, what do you prefer?
Let's just wait and.
Okay.
Catch it.
Perfect, all right. Ms. Gordon, please, you're representing social services now, and,
Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. Well, I can apologize on behalf of the fire company too for.
she's also the president of this fine building. Thank you for hosting this, meeting today.
So I'm just here to present, kind of the leading issues from the Virginia League of Social Services Executives, so I'm sure you guys will be hearing these. The first is the centralized CPS intake. We will strongly oppose that, just because it takes the localities out of it. It's going to be a big central, department up in Richmond that receives the calls and then tries to triage them and get the information. That's time lost, lack of rural community knowledge that we have here. We have a really good team, multiple disciplinary team that activates as soon as the CPS is received. And so we're just worried that it could cause delays, in some dire circumstances. The second issue is our Virginia case management system. I'll kind of be honest, we got that system back in 2010. It only housed our child care assistance program. When, the Affordable Care Act was passed, we moved Medicaid into it. The system has not worked for over 15 years probably. The state knows that, but they just keep putting more and more into it. It's causing delays in processing for benefits, for our constituents. It causes errors in our work, and that's even more important now due to HR 1 being passed, that now the state is on the hook for our error rate. There are workarounds on issues that they know are not working in the system. For example, there's a workaround for a policy change that happened in October of 2025. That issue still has not been fixed. So we as workers have to remember when this situation happens, we have to do this and lie to the system and document it so that we can get the case processed correctly. So we really need to be advocating for a system replacement.
So we talked to the secretary about that and drilled him immensely on the error rates, because we get our money based off.
Right.
And we gave them quite a bit of money, like a lot of money, in the millions, to revamp the system. So I will try to get you an update at the next, Senate hearing we have. I'll try to get you where they are on that.
Okay.
So obviously, with the new administration, probably hasn't passed down anything yet, so, but I'll try to see where we are on that.
From what I understand, they are trying to redesign the public-facing system, which is called Common Health.
Right.
Once they redesign that, then they're talking about then redesigning the ACMS. So that's what I understand.
This is a statewide issue that you're following.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Definitely.
benefit workers use this system to process all benefit programs. And then the third thing is, woo, Got really loud, excuse me. Workforce challenges. I know it's kind of an issue across all things, but specifically for us, I'll just speak on behalf of Madison. We have lost 10 employees over the last year. Turnover is crazy. Most of that turnover has happened in the benefit programs area. There's extensive training. When you hire somebody who doesn't have any experience at all, it's at least 6 to 8 months before they can even learn one program.
And what's the cost to train one person for 6 to 8 months?
I don't have that figure for you right now, but I
Can
can
you
get
get
that
it?
for you. Yep, I sure can. And we all are generic workers here in this small locality, which means that we process all benefit programs. We don't specialize, so you kind of have to build on your portfolio as you go. So you can imagine the training, and then once that person leaves, then we gotta kind of start all over again.
Do you know what counties are robbing you?
Mostly neighboring counties. Orange has gotten quite a few, and I think the difference is then there's deviating agencies and non-deviating agencies, and Orange is deviating, whereas we're not.
Okay. We faced a similar thing with regard to veterans, service agents, in Northern Virginia, were getting poached by the VA. And we put in something special to try to help them, so there might be a way to work around some of that localities that are, there's 10 is a lot.
Yeah, and it's a lot.
That's
And I know that they just kind of did a bump for base salary for family services specialists, but kind of need that for benefit programs too.
Okay.
Yes.
Supervisor Buchanan would like some clarity on acronyms or different things.
Okay.
Like deviated and non-deviated, what does that mean?
It means that they have to go by the state compensation schedule, or if you're a deviating agency, then you can kind of go by your own localities. You don't have to
Makes
stick
that
with the state.
determination, or is that a department gets to elect to do that, or is it done by district?
I don't know if it's the board of supervisors or the social services boards,
And are we losing these folks strictly because of pay?
mostly. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was compression.
the last one that we lost to Orange, they got an $8,000 bump.
Happens to the sheriff's department all the time.
Yeah.
And state police.
Just a quick question, just to bounce back to the CMS, what, I guess, as it stands now,
Mhm.
what are some things that we can take a look at on our end to kind of help alleviate some of those burdens and set a timeline on that? Just so we're making sure that we all are not missing out on these resources.
I mean, I would just advocate for a better system or more money to be put towards it. You know, it's, the state knows, you know, the governor knows, the secretary knows, our home office knows. They know it's not a good system. I attend meetings quarterly where they'll say, like, we know it's not working, but this is what we have. It's just kind of unfortunate, and it's more important now because of the error rate and the money that's attached to it.
Oh, what is that error rate, how is it?
In 2025, the error rate was over 12%, it was like 12.35.
And it should be like 5, right? Isn't it 5?
Anything under 6,
Six.
there is no,
Right.
you know, there's no money on the hook for the state.
You said about 12%?
It was 12, which means that's the highest amount that would be contributed.
For the state.
That was for the state.
Which Madison?
We don't know. They cannot provide us per locality error rates. Yeah, we've been fussing about that. They just haven't gotten it to us yet. They're just saying the whole state, and that's what we're on the hook for. So, we're working, but the more policy changes and the more they keep, you know, shoving at us, the error rate's just gonna keep going up. And
So-
meanwhile, our constituents are without services.
I will just tell you, Senator Dees, I was in the meeting, because I'm in the HHR sub, Health and Human Resources Subcommittee in Finance, and he wrote the secretary a new one. Like, gave him forewarning, like, if it's not fixed, like,
Right.
very quickly, the heads are gonna start rolling, so he got the message.
Yeah.
Secretary, I got it, that's what he was saying.
We're working, we're doing the best that we can, but the system is quite a challenge.
You just wanna make sure that they're
different, state representatives draft, patron different bills. From the state level, Senator Reeves, I know you've been there a little bit, I don't know if you're in this committee, but any rationale why they wanna do centralizing child protective kind of reporting versus letting that happen locally? That's one more phone call for them to make, and they're waiting for that decision.
I think that's come out of, the foster care reform. When I was chairman of the committee before we lost the majority, we were last in the country for kids who age out of foster care in Virginia. Last, 50. Carl Ayers was the secretary at the time, and I called him, and for those of you that knew the old system of foster care, every county had a different plan, a different program. It was hodgepodge, there was no appeal process for parents or foster families, from retribution from social workers who were on welfare because their salaries weren't there. We were short 86 social services folks. And I think that's come out of that, you know, we put the ombudsman up there for foster care. I think some folks in those committees are thinking, hey, well, let's just, so we can collate the data. I don't know if it's a power grab or what. I don't remember seeing this coming through, but you know, we see over 3,000 pieces of legislation, so. But I'm happy to, my gut tells me that's where it's coming from. So, but I can find out.
So Lauren, or excuse me, Ms. Gore.
That's okay. I
Just
can
because
keep
we
Lauren.
know people off of youth sports or high school days, I need to keep it warm. What would you say, I know you say you have concerns, but what would be your number one thing about that?
I just think that it's like playing the telephone game, you know, information can be lost. And again, you know, a big call center in Richmond doesn't necessarily know the demographics and the relationships that we have with people in our county, and time lost.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna give you a little bit of break.
I'll just kind of hang out back here, because I'll be back.
She's gonna come back with her school board hat on. So, thank you very much. Next up, we have Ms. Tracy Gardner, and Tracy, help, tell us, you're a part of this first inaugural class for tourism, maybe?
Yes, I had my CVTP, Certified Tourism, Virginia Tourism Professional.
So we feel very official. No, Tracy does a lot as a party of one. If you happen to be in the area on September the 5th, this is our 20-what year of Taste of the Mountain?
32nd.
32nd. COVID kind of threw it out of there.
COVID would have been 34th.
Come join us. I know many of you have, and we appreciate that. So whether you're campaigning or not, we always love to have you. We realize Orange is competing this year, but go to vote.
No.
But Tracy, take it away.
Well, you just took half my presentation.
I yield my time.
Or this isn't even a presentation, so I was gonna distract you with this. This AI generated poster. It is gonna be a good day, and it is my opportunity to thank you for being here today and for every other event you guys have always attended and helping up our incline and our parades, and we really do appreciate it. It means a lot for a small county. I have things that you may not expect to see, but I will go quickly. One that caught me off guard was the human trafficking, and then after I kind of dove into that, it makes sense, although a lot of people don't see the person, the property owner. It would make sense to me to have short-term rental people who have some type of trafficking identification and prevention course, if hotels do. Even in my little visitor center that's not next to a train station, I've had someone come in before where I have called Sheriff's Office and Social Services because I was shook, because I knew something was going on there. So that was just thrown in there because that just caught my eye right away. Taxation, we oppose any single industry taxes aimed at the hospitality industry unless it's supported by the local tourism committee and cohorts, and in our case, it definitely was. I can look at all the lodging partners and say we do our absolute best to bring this back to you tenfold, and try to get it to where we have more lodging people coming in, because that's my main job, you know, to come in and then get out. So, and obviously funding, would request that you support Virginia tourism. They've gotten the same, I think, 30 million annually for the last several years. We would like to keep it at that at least. They would like to make it 35 million to target first-time visitors to Virginia. We are definitely a drive-to destination here. We do get other people, but for the most
most part, they're people that are just returning visitors. We would like to get those new visitors in. And also, they need $1 million to fully fund their welcome centers. Because we're a drive-to destination, we know that we can actually snag some of those people that go to the welcome centers and see our brochure. We have a little bit longer one with include history in it as well. I can skip that one probably. Let's see. Go down to the bottom. Tourism improvement and fishing access. We have a long history here with fishing, but we support the public's ability to access waterways for recreational fishing throughout the Commonwealth, going back to Herbert Hoover and then running through of late. We have Rose River Farm and Douglas Deere, who deals with Project Healing Waters, and he does a program with veterans who have physical impairments or emotional impairments, and they have actually turned their lives around with that program. So fishing is very important to people, and we'd like to keep it for everyone, and stewardship of our natural resources. Next page. And on the economic development side, and I should have mentioned that, I'm also economic development, as well as Chamber of Commerce. Our president is here, and we have a couple board members too, so it's glad to see those here. We would like to fill funding for site characterization. We participated in that in 2018. That's very important. We don't have a lot of land, but we do have some private-public development that we can work on as well. And then I can probably move down. We already know you guys are looking at tax burdens on businesses. And then we also support Go Virginia. We've been very fortunate and very involved in our Go Virginia Region 9 Council, and have been a part of, I've tried to calculate, it's at least $500,000 in grants. So much support for that is needed. And finally, our small business development centers need funding as well. Those people are miracle workers, and one-on-one business support, they have turned everyone around. We're actually having, they did an AI training a little while ago. We're having one on September 17th for those that are exiting for aging populations. They don't have to just close down or just sell the property. There are other alternatives, so we're doing that on September 17th. They have helped tremendously for a small one, like you said, one person in my office. They are like having another staff. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to go, if you go up to, I'm a prior utility guy, you can never get it out of me. Water and wastewater, and we can do this offline, Senator Reeves, but I know Alina pointed out, we appreciate all representatives here, but you've been very successful in those areas along with your other colleagues in infrastructure funding. I know we'll probably talk about infrastructure funding here when it involves the school, but specifically, Mr. Jewett is our leading effort with legislation. He's also our BACO voting member. I think we learned a little bit about maybe some potential money that Orange was seeking prior. As you know, we have a service authority that covers Orange and Madison. There are some projects coming up, so if there are some things offline that Mr. Jewett and I can learn about properly lobbying for some state funding. I don't know if there's difficulties when it becomes locality owned versus authority owned, but it is our economic, one of our very limited resources. We have natural gas, but it's transmission, not distribution. We'd love to change that at some point, but really water and wastewater is what will allow some economic development here, and those are very costly
Well, it's
projects.
on my list, it has to get into this thing about where you guys are with infrastructure, but it's, the amount of the grants, it's 25 million. And, Green has done an exceptional job at going for federal monies to start that process through, Congressman Vindman's office, so he's been fantastic. We've been working hand in hand in it, along with Orange. As you know, Orange was without water for 14 days. And so, as we continue to do that, I think one of the things that would help both our offices is to understand the current status of your, the current status of how old it is, what you need, and what's your priority, right? Because I don't know what other jurisdictions have put in for that money. To my knowledge, I think it says Green. Senator Stewart had a jurisdiction that was written in my name as well on the, we made sure, in the last budget, by name it was Green, something in the northern neck, Orange, and then maybe one other. But Richmond had a whole separate line item because they're really messed up.
Does it matter, sir, if it's authority-owned utility versus a county?
I don't think we wrote the language like that. I think.
I mean, they're a subdivision of the Commonwealth. They're
Absolutely.
regulated.
I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think we purposely left it kind of open-ended for counties and municipalities. So I just have to, we'll get what you need, Jim, and you guys can take a look at it.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Tracy, is that all?
I think that's it. So even though we do not have any projects on the horizon, but also we did mention too the needed energy infrastructure investments.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for that. Wear many hats, but do it so well. Thank you very much. All right, I promised Ms. Gordon will be coming back. She is one of our school board members. I believe we also have another school board member, Mr. Graham Davidson, as well as our wonderful superintendent, Anna Graham. So we'll call you to the aisle now. I may actually go back seat to let you both up here. If you want to slide left, I'm just going to stay in the back, probably have a cookie. No judging. But we'll call you up, we'll go through this. And while Mr. Davidson's coming, I do want to take the opportunity, we're not putting on the spot, but we have many veterans here today. I know Senator Reeves is a veteran. Raise your hand if you serve. I know many of you in here, so just a round of applause. And thank you for your service of our veterans. I will move my stuff out of the way, so.
Share my mistakes there.
I'll hang on to that.
You can have mine.
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever we are today. We wanted to start with that 2023 JLARC report back when they were doing the study on funding Virginia schools. There is a little nugget in there that is toward the end of the study that's listed as a long-term goal, but that would have a huge impact in Madison County, and that's the study on the economies of scale, where school divisions that have less than 2,000 students, how much the portion, 25% of our funding has to go to the fact that we still have to run central office and have all that administrative overhead because we have the same reports and the same duties that you're Loudoun County, that you're Culpeper County, that everyone still has. We have to do those same duties within what we have. So in the report, JLARC identified that if the state were to fund, and I think it's a little over 80 counties that fall into this category, and it would cost the state close to $90 million. But for Madison, that would be $1.7 million. And that would help us compete with teacher pay in the region. We appreciate all the work that's been done, the 4% raise for teachers, and the same thing that's supposed to happen next fiscal year. But when all the counties around us are also getting 4%, we lag behind, just like what you were saying with police officers, just like she was saying with our social services department. It's hard to catch up when you feel like you're constantly, like we get ahead and then we're behind. But that, the economies of scale would make a huge impact for us. And again, not just for teacher pay, but I did put the little nugget in there, something people don't think about sometimes, and that's running our high school. Our elementary schools, you'll find student-teacher ratio very similar to what you'd find in other counties. But when you're running a comprehensive high school and you're trying to offer the CTE courses, the world language classes, and all the different things that the kids want to take, some of our classes only have like 9, 10, 11 kids in it, and people are like, oh, well, this class is not filled. Why are you offering it? Well, we're offering it because the kids in Madison deserve the same opportunities that kids are growing up in other localities. So it's more expensive to run a high school in a rural county. And that, again, that's where we could help divert some of that funding if that were to come full circle for us. So we appreciate you keeping your eye out for that. I know the Rural Schools Coalition is also working on that, so you'll probably hear more about it. For us, we did put on there the teacher shortage workforce pipeline. I don't really need to explain that much to you. You probably hear about it all the time. But one thing on there that would help us a lot, that's the third bullet, is the licensure flexibility. It was passed that we're allowed, as a superintendent, I'm allowed to award a locally awarded teacher's license. It goes for 1 year. If that could extend to 2 or 3 years, we don't just randomly give those licenses, but for us, it can be like a retired person coming in that had a great career. Maybe they were like an English professor for 30 years. I mean, they know what they're doing. We just have to go through the legwork of getting them licensed, and to say they're not qualified when they come in, or just people that have been in the field, anything, doing it, they know their math. We just have to get them licensed, and that can take longer than a year. So having that and knowing and trusting us that we're not going to just randomly give it to people, but it's something where someone we know the potential's there, they're going to be a great teacher, that we just have to give them the time to get the license. So anything you guys could do to extend that beyond the year would be greatly appreciated.
We put on their lab schools. That was, Governor Youngkin's initiative, and we did join a lab school. It's a grow your own program called the, Future Educators Academy. We are with Germanic Community College and some local school divisions, and Laurel Ridge is also a part of it as well, community college. That our students can earn their associate's degree while in high school, and then they go away to college for 2 years, and they come back and they work for us. So we've been in the program for 2 full years now, so this year is our first year where we have 2 students that graduated last year with their associate's degree. So they're both at their colleges now. One has chosen to do college virtually, so she's gonna come to the school division and be with a mentor teacher on the days that she's not in classes for the next 2 years, and then we're gonna be able to hire her on. So that program, the funding is ending with the lab schools, so that is something where more funding could happen, because growing our own is very important, because there are kids that would like to stay in the area and do wanna come back, and it is for, elementary teachers. We've already talked about collective bargaining. Mr. Weebly, I heard you mention the 1%. Would you guys like
I
to?
think this is the perfect opportunity to talk about the voter referendum
This is a
in a
passionate.
neutral way.
Yeah, of course.
Passion of our vice chair.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm sure that everyone here has heard of the 1% tax, and I know that this is something that was brought forward to the previous administration. I think Governor Youngkin vetoed it, probably for good reason. This year, it passed the House. I think it was somewhat bipartisan, maybe 8 House Republicans voted it in. And then, now it's passed, we're faced with an opportunity to impose a 1% tax, but to do that by referendum. And there are 9 counties currently doing that in the state of Virginia, and I think they're benefiting greatly from it. We've been collaborating with them. We've had some really good meetings about lessons learned, the benefit it's having. They're much like our county. In fact, their political makeup is much like their county, and I'm just being very objective here. And the comments, but I believe that, Greene County, Madison County, and I'm not sure about the other 2 counties in Reynolds District, has also taken action to put this forward to the citizens. We have been really objective in trying to understand how it will impact our taxpayers. It's awful attractive when you think of 25% of it would come from those who are diverse in our area. It's kind of like a transient tax. Our school system is faced with we did an analysis, it's well over $100 million of capital improvements over the next 20 years. And, we can continue to delay that, but it's not gonna go away. At some point, we have to address it. The idea of doing this is very attractive to us. I think we did an estimate, it was roughly somewhere between $1.3 and $1.5 million a year that it would bring in, depending on what type of bond you put that in, that offers additional money. It has great opportunity and it's really, it seems like on the surface a very good option for our county to adopt. I'm curious to know, given your all's conversations and where you're at, are there blind spots that we're not seeing, or are there things that we need to consider? Is there, as we navigate this and try to socialize this objectively and by informing our citizens, and as we go to the voting poll, like what should we be concerned about?
Well, I would tell you, one of the worst things that I experienced in the General Assembly is when we raise taxes, like the transportation tax, and then we rate it pay for something else. Nothing burns me up more than that, right? We promise we're gonna fix your roads and we're gonna take it, but we're not, we're gonna take it and do something else with it. So my suggestion, if you're gonna raise the tax on your citizens, is put some kind of lockbox on the device that you're gonna use, and that money better go to schools. If it goes somewhere else, somebody's gonna get hung.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I'm just telling you straight up, that's one of the biggest challenges as sitting on a money committee is where do you find all the money? Everybody has a need, and after a while, everything's on a spreadsheet. And you're like, okay, well, we'll give this and this and this and this. You mentioned earlier about lab schools. Well, that's a policy decision And, you know, the truth is, we fight the BEA all the time. Nobody wants money coming out of public schools going to anything other than public schools. It's just the biggest nut to crack. But when you look at like Culpeper, and they have the lab school for nurses, they had 13 or 14 go through. I mean, and there's such a deficit of nurses, and there's a deficit of teachers. And it works, but the problem is you're dealing with politics.
Correct.
And that's the biggest thing. So, you know, 1% makes a big difference here. It'll make a big difference in Rappahannock. You think you guys are in bad shape, go up and talk to Debbie Donahue and with their 775 students and figure out how they're getting screwed royally. And Delegate Weber and I have been trying to beat that forever and ever and ever. And it's just, again, we're a rural district with not a lot of voting power. And I'm not making an excuse, I'm just telling you, every year I bring it up and we fight for it. But it's like, what happens is all these things feel good, and then we get closer to the budget time, and then the knives come out. Then people get their feelings hurt when their bills die. And, you know, it's just a nasty process, but it's how we have to navigate.
Sure.
I guess for me, just a quick question, or if you can expand, from a federal bird's eye view, is there, or has there been any like formula grants that the county has looked at, that you may consider in terms of applying for, that we can support, that we can help offset any costs?
Yeah, what have we done for that?
As far as grants
Yeah,
or
grants at the federal level, he's looking at the federal level.
Because a lot of those formula grants are really targeted and assist like rural communities, rural counties.
and I cannot remember the name of the one grant where we get like the 10% back. I will have to email you when we send. I'll look it up and find you the name.
And I think, and forgive me, I should have a prescription that reads your name. Is it Boadi?
Ray, just call me Ray.
You sure?
Yes, please.
Call me Jonathan. There are other names they'll tell you later to call me. So Ray, we would like to learn more, so maybe offline. One of the things the board set for their FY27 goals and priorities was like a weekly research grant writer. And I attended a couple classes. One recently was the 2 CFR 200, which that's something else. But particularly just the resources, and it blew my mind. So that was just a freshman here looking at it. We probably will need, that's what that report, I'm just gonna allude to that now, we'll probably say, that we can benefit, but we don't know what we don't know, and it's our job to learn and know that, but we would be happy to explore that, and see what funding there, because the 1% has to get over the voter, hurdle, and I can tell you, they look at the local level as the same if we were Richmond or if we were DC, so we'll see if it passes. Now, as Senator Reeves said, there is a lockbox. We go to jail if we spend this money, if it passed for anything else. Our attorney will keep us out, we'll try, but it needs to go to that. But we realize those numbers, Kim, if you can take it down a page. Sorry, my down, you're up, Steve, thanks. They have a report being commissioned right now to look at feasibility studies of the middle school, high school campus is really what draws those numbers there. And, you know, what renovations could look like versus new school versus maybe a combination of some renovations or addition to a school. Those are pretty big numbers. So you can always deal with commercial paper loans. You can look at VML code, you can look at VRA, but we would love any other opportunities, whether it's federal grant funds, I don't know if there's a local match or not, or state opportunities when it comes to things that doesn't meet the criteria. I understand the lab part, totally get the politics on that, but we would love to learn more. We have, you know, received more on the federal level when it comes to things like COPS grants and things which we're appreciative of, but these are really big numbers. And to the senator's point, yeah, we feel for our neighbors, Dr. Grimsley and Debbie Donahue and them in Rappahannock. We're just a little bit ahead of them, not by much when it comes to population. I think we do have double the amount, probably about 1,520 students, and that's probably counting pre-K, but that's a big number for a small tax base. So we love to learn more. We can't cover it all here today, but we are happy for the superintendent of schools, myself, whoever, to learn those avenues.
Yeah, and I'm glad to. I know that there've been some cuts with the resources that come out of the Department of Education, but there is
Can I add on to that though? And Chairman, get me off my soapbox, let's have him kick me. I don't know if there's a different way, because everybody has, you know, they gotta put up, are you a fiscal distressed county, what's your HMI? All that's true. And I don't think what I'm getting ready to say is ever gonna change, but I'm gonna put this in perspective. Madison County has been blessed, and this isn't me, this is a whole team of board, financial people, the citizens being kind, of being very good stewards of money. But we have financial policies. So when you look at our CAFR, and it says, hey, you have 20-something million dollars in the bank. And this could be good for the general public overall to hear. It seems like, well, my goodness, why the hell are you taxing me so much, people? Well, we have policies. We have a 14% threshold. There's another 4%. So overall, there's 18% that, God forbid something happens, we got to cover our bills. We have a 2.5% for things like joint services stabilization. So if the jails or the juvenile detention or CSA or anything overrun. So there's a lot. When you get down to assigned, unassigned, that number gets very small. I don't know if anybody would ever look at the application and ask you for that, but if you're just looking at that number, you would say, Madison, you're not fiscal distress. And I think the taxpayers would say, I don't know about that. So again, happy to talk about that offline. I've just been kicked. That's my cue. We'll just turn that off. Just turn that off, please. But if there's another way when folks look at fiscal distress, I do want to keep that in mind, because we may be penalized for having those rainy day funds, appropriate funds. Anything else on school?
Unless they have additional questions or comments about the 1% tax.
I have one question. Do you all have a plan of sunsetting it at any point?
I think that's a great question, and I think that is a really important point that we want to share with our citizens in some type of way, is that this is a 20-year sunset, or it has a 20-year cap on. You can't go beyond 20 years. You can go less than 20 years, and you don't even really have to go up to 1%. You can do 0.75% of 1%. But it's got a 20-year cap on it. So this ends at some point. The other option for us to address this is to potentially raise our property taxes. It's really hard to reverse a property tax. This here ends. It's a very clear way of fixing a big problem that we have in a very small community with a very small tax base. So, you know, we're trying to be just informative about it and objective about it, but it's obviously attractive to us right now.
I had two other things that didn't make the list I'd like to cover, and I'll be short in my remarks. I did attend Mr. Jewett and Mr. Smith and I, the VACO Summit a couple weeks ago, and there was discussion. I think Senator Van Valkenburg may have been in the room in that breakout session. And the concerns was about the funding for SROs. I don't know where that's gonna go this year to General Assembly. I will tell you that if that grant goes away, the impact to Madison County is roughly $78,000. My suggestion to Mr. Van Valkenburg, I believe I have his name correct, and Jeremy was in there from VACO, and I hadn't showed the superintendent. If it's a struggle of funding of priorities, right now I know there's two buckets of money. There's SSO and there's SROs. I believe SSO, some schools recognize and like that over SROs, but if it's a choice, you know, pick one, maybe combine the funding, but please, whatever you do, fight for that funding for SROs. We have 4 schools. We're privileged to have 4 SROs in those schools. We all know that's the most fragile part of our community, are our kids. You know, I grew up, I like to think I'm 16 still, but we didn't have these problems when I walked the halls here in Madison County, and I think there's importance in that. So I know there are other communities that are dealing with that, but SROs are a high priority. I believe the board would agree with that. And then secondly, we were just given notice, and we're dealing with Verizon State and Local Government Affairs about the notices our citizens received in advance of county administration, I know, that the discontinuance of copper-based, basically landlines. I'm sure it's gonna work its way through. We're not anti-technology. We know broadband deployment has been huge. We're appreciative of that DADI money that's allowed Firefly to disperse fiber to home in our community.
I know Rappahannock County, and there are others, we were at Planning District 9 meeting the other day, the chairman and I, we have a high concern. I'm sure, you know, that they'll figure it out. The biggest thing is, do not cut the line off until you have comparable service, or at least figure out the 911 part. There are alarms, medical alerts, things that are tied to that may not work over cellular devices. Madison County, you know, if you think of the northern and western parts of the county, maybe even some of the southern parts, we have a lot of foliage, we like that, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. So any advice you have or any leverage you have, we don't mind walking through and welcoming technology. It's just, we have folks in remote areas. There's a reason why the telephone lines go up to the first presidential retreat, Camp Hoover, in the 20s, and it touches every house. We realize that copper is expensive to repair. There's 100,000 homes left that Verizon told me that they're having to deal with. I know it's a cost problem, but whatever you can do or recommendations, we're gonna file, the board authorized me to draft a letter and file to the FCC as soon as they give it a case number, and we're gonna do that. But if you've got any advice on that or any leverage, we just wanna make sure before the FCC says, this is a good thing, come October 2026, that there is a pathway or recognizing that that 911 component is real for places like Phoenix Hollow and Grays Mill. It's a difficult situation. Thank you. Yes. So now, Mr. Chairman, if you want, I believe it'd be a great opportunity. They've been listening a lot, maybe I'll
I was
zip it.
gonna say that concludes our presenters, and I think Senator Reeves, you have expressed the desire to ask a few things at the end, so now we'll go to the panel, for any comments or questions.
My question is going all the way back to the paramedicine. So my question is, as you all go out and triage in your county, I don't know, maybe you just inform me, but your scope of practice as an EMT, what are your limits? Because I can see where they're gonna get a little bit convoluted with your duties and responsibilities. I don't wanna see the program get hindered because the Docs Association and the nurse practitioners are gonna come in and say they shouldn't be doing it.
So, great question. I did learning commercial lessons, including another CC related, meeting tonight. I'm nowhere near as eloquent or educated as Ms. Tiffany is. But, so, when our employees go through certifications, they start at typically the EMT level. They can go to an advanced level, a paramedic level, and then from paramedic, you can go to additional certifications such as the CPC certification, which is a community paramedic certification recognized by the International Board of Specialty Certifications.
Okay.
So it's training on top of all of the other training that we've already done. So that then outlines things like blood work, which is not normally part of your paramedic program, long-term care, different medications that we wouldn't be used to. And so the idea is not that we work over doctors in those settings, but that we work with doctors. We work with our local PCP program for things like setting up telehealth for people who can't get into the doctor's office easily, so they can still communicate with their doctors and other specialists, but we're able to get those resources to them when they might not be able to. We have people who are way up the mountain on dirt roads and it rains and you can't get up there. We can't get up there. And so being able to have that resource for them, having it set up ahead of time helps prevent that crisis when it happens. So they already have that connection, they already know how to get places. So it's a partnership, not a delivery.
No, I was assuming that. The other question I had was, once you've identified, you know, usually it's 90% of the resources are done by 10% of the people typically. That's how it is medicated everywhere else. And my question is, now that you've identified most of your people that have that need that you're already facilitating through long-term care, managed care, telemedicine, all those sort of things, are you working in coordination with your CSDs as well, so they're not duplicating your efforts?
We work very closely with our social services department. They are an excellent resource and we work with them. So
that doctors or nurses don't get to see. And then we get to help connect people to the services that are applicable.
No, I just want to tell you, it's a phenomenal program because, you know, the big beautiful bill cut those folks that need the resources most, and it's hundreds of thousands of people in the Commonwealth of Virginia now are gonna walk into the ERs again and multiply our costs. So you guys going out first is gonna save a ton of money, so I just, I never heard of it till today.
And many people haven't, it is a newer program, but we're trying to fill a gap that we've identified as EMS by going into people's houses and seeing things like diabetic patients who don't know that their insulin is supposed to be in the refrigerator. That's a failure of the system, not the patient. And so then we can help fix those problems. And by seeing so many of this, that's where the community care medicine program got started. And we found this need for it. And we have the employees, we have the people with the education to help. That's what we want to do.
Thank you, Phil. Let's see if we can get more money.
And really quickly, the HR 2538, the
Yes.
CARE Act, that you are tracking that we did co-sponsor that bill.
Yes, we are very appreciative of your co-sponsor. We talked to you guys about it at EMS on the Hill Day this past April.
So that's something I'm happy to follow up and see, because it is,
Greatly
we're just still in the ways
appreciated.
and means, I don't think we just made that meeting over there.
I'm not aware of it making it any further than it had.
Chairman, unless our wonderful elected officials has any other questions, I believe they may have other commitments.
All right, so, that concludes our discussion. Anything further from the panel? Then, we do have a public comment, period on our agenda, so, if anyone has a public comment, please be respectful of their representatives' time. We've taken up quite a bit of time already, but if there's any time for public comment, please.
I'm not seeing anybody.
Yes.
Well, I came out here,
I'll do this. in
Your
less-
name for the record, sir?
I'll do this in less than 2 minutes. Albert of Etland, Albert Gow. So, I can only follow about 2% of what you all were talking about. I just don't get involved. There need to be some grants or reimbursement for some of these homeschoolers for like books and stuff. Next thing is zoning. If somebody takes farmland out of production, class 1, 2, or 3, put a house or a business on it, it should go on the corner of the property or on the edge, otherwise it needs to be fined. Early voting needs to go away, maybe a week, and absentee ballots need to be like it used to be. Nuclear power, if they put the time, money, and effort into researching nuclear power like they had for windmills and solar, we could have electricity so cheap, I wouldn't even have to chuck wood in the stove. And I'm talking about thorium nuclear. If you don't know what that is, check it out. All right, VDOT and/or contractors need to do a better job of getting the dead trees, leaning trees, and branches. They're all over the place. And it holds people up, they have to detour, or it could be unsafe. And they need to do a quicker job of fixing some of these potholes, especially the ones on the edge of the road. If somebody has a trailer and that thing bounces up and goes over into other traffic, or the guy's gonna move to the left to miss the pothole, then he hits a car coming the other way. So that needs to be done, and they're way behind on mowing this year. And social services, where are you at? I'm authorized representative for you know who, and if y'all would put out less paperwork, you could get rid of a couple of your employees. That's all I've got. If you want some more on this, I'll tell you at the time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dow. Anybody else? All right, very well, we'll close public comment, and we have no closed session. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
If we may, before we adjourn, I'd like to give a round of applause. Thank everybody for participating, each department head in which you brought the issue. I'd like to recognize, we don't want to leave out your wonderful staff, because a lot of, and I'm sorry I missed your burger flip and I had to miss the barbecue, so next time, keep manning the grill. But how about a round of applause for our elected officials?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.